I used to think baby monitors were a blessing. They let me keep tabs on my daughter Emily from any room in the house. I could fold laundry or cook dinner while still hearing her breathe. But now I think back to those nights, and I wish I had never plugged that thing in. My husband, Greg, worked the night shift for a tech company in the next city over. It was just me and Emily most nights. She was just 6 months old then. Bright blue eyes, the softest brown curls. Always giggling. Our house was in a peaceful suburb, one of those quiet places with trimmed lawns and neighbors who wave, but never asked too many questions. Emily's nursery was upstairs, and I kept the monitor on my nightstand. It picked up everything. Her coos, the shuffle of her tiny arms. Even the sound of her mobile when the breeze from the window touched it. The first time it happened, I thought it was a glitch. It was around 2:30 a.m. I had just drifted off when the monitor crackled to life. I heard soft breathing and then, hush now. Don't cry, Daddy's here, I sat up, heart racing. Greg wasn't home. He wouldn't be back until sunrise. The voice was low, whispery, unfamiliar. Not mine, not Greg's. I ran upstairs so fast I nearly tripped over the stair gate. Emily was asleep in her crib, completely still, her tiny chest rising and falling. The window was closed. Nothing seemed disturbed. I checked the monitor, both the unit in her room and mine. Everything looked normal. Maybe it was interference, static. I tried to brush it off, but it didn't stop. The next night, I left the monitor on again. I had to. Emily had been restless, teething maybe. Around 1 a.m., the monitor crackled again. You miss Daddy, don't you? He misses you too, This time I froze. The voice was clearer, male, gentle, almost soothing. Emily started to cry. I rushed upstairs, breath tight in my throat. She was sitting up in her crib, facing the corner. Not the door, not the mobile, not the nightlight, just the corner of the room. Her cry stopped when I entered. She looked at me, then back to the corner. I checked everything again. Window locked, closet empty. No signs of forced entry. I started leaving the lights on at night. 3 nights later, the monitor played something new. At 3:10 a.m., the usual, static gave way to that same whispering tone. You're not her real mommy. She knows that ... So do you. I screamed. This wasn't some frequency overlap from a neighbor's baby cam. This was directed at me. Emily wailed upstairs. Her cries weren't normal. Not those soft whimpers I'd come to recognize. These were full of panic. Pure fear. I bolted to her room and found her pressed against the side of her crib, arms outstretched. As if trying to climb out, her eyes were fixed on something in the middle of the room. There was nothing there. But the air, it felt thick, charged, like walking into a room moments after someone screamed. I pulled her into my arms and rocked her back to sleep in the living room. I didn't go back upstairs. I told Greg everything the next day. He was skeptical at first. Thought it was stress, exhaustion. But then I showed him. I recorded the audio from the monitor that night. We waited together in the living room. The monitor sat between us. At exactly 3 a.m. The static kicked in, followed by that same soft, chilling voice. She cries for him every night, not you. Greg turned white. He stood up and went straight to the stairs. But before he even got to the second step, the monitor whispered again, You shouldn't be here, Greg. That was the first and only time he admitted to being afraid of something he couldn't explain. We threw the monitor away the next morning, bought a new one. Different brand. Digital, encryption, long range, everything. It made no difference. The new monitor picked up nothing for a few nights. I started to relax. Maybe we'd imagined it, fed into our own anxiety. But then something far worse happened. I woke up not to the monitor, but to silence. No static. Just dead air. I got up to check the monitor and found it unplugged. The cord had been yanked from the wall upstairs. Emily wasn't in her crib. I can't explain the kind of fear that floods your body when your child is missing. My knees nearly gave out. I screamed her name, ran from room to room, every closet, every corner. Nothing. I was about to call the police when I heard it. Her cry, faint, muffled, coming from under the house. We had a crawl space. Dark, dusty, barely 3 feet high. I never went near Greg was at work. I didn't care. I grabbed a flashlight and ran outside. Heart pounding. I shined the light into the crawl space and saw her, Emily, lying on an old sheet, unharmed but sobbing. I crawled in and pulled her out. She clung to me like she hadn't seen me in days. The police found no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no indication anyone else had been there. They didn't believe me when I told them about the voice. About the monitor, about the crawl space. We moved a week later. Greg quit his job and took a local position. Emily never went back into that room again. I still don't know what that voice was. A man? A spirit? A memory tangled in the walls? All I know is this. Baby monitors don't lie. They just transmit. And sometimes something else is listening on the other end. I never thought I'd hear those words from my husband, not about my daughter, not about Lily. Lily was our first child, born on a stormy autumn evening in a small hospital just outside town. She had bright green eyes that looked exactly like mine and a smile that could light up the darkest room. For 2 years, she was the center of our world. But then, the cracks began to show. It started small. Greg, my husband of 5 years, began acting distant. He came home late, stayed on his phone more often, and when I asked about work, he'd get defensive. I thought it was just stress. Until the day he said it. We were in the living room, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the big oak trees outside. Lily was playing quietly with her favorite stuffed rabbit, humming to herself. Greg sat on the couch, staring at the floor. I asked him how his day was. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked up, eyes cold and empty. I need to tell you something, he said. I felt my heart sink. What is it? I asked, already afraid of the answer. He swallowed hard, then said the words that shattered my world. Lily isn't my daughter. At first, I thought it was some sick joke. I laughed nervously, hoping he'd say he was kidding, but the look on his face told me otherwise. He went on to explain. During the pregnancy, he'd been contacted by a woman, someone from his past. She told him Lily was actually her child, that she'd given birth around the same time and that the hospital had made a mistake. Greg said he tried to ignore it, but the doubt had gnawed at him. Watching Lily grow, hearing her laugh, seeing her cry, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I was furious, hurt, confused. I demanded proof. The hospital said there had been no mix-up. The birth records matched our names. Everything was perfect on paper, but Greg insisted on a DNA test. We did it. The waiting felt endless when the results came back. They confirmed what Greg feared. Lily wasn't his biological daughter. That night, our house felt colder. Greg was silent. I was numb, but then strange things began to happen. Lily, who had always been sweet and quiet, started having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming about a man in the dark who wanted to take her away. She stopped wanting to play outside. Would cling to me at the window, staring into the woods behind our house. One night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps downstairs. Greg wasn't home. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed to the stairs. At the bottom. The hall light flickered. A shadow moved just out of sight. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. The door to the basement was wide open. I never wanted to go down there alone, but I had to check. The basement smelled like damp earth and old wood. The light bulb swung overhead, casting twisted shadows on the walls. Suddenly, I heard it, a whisper. Not yours. Never was. I spun around. No one. My breath quickened. Lily's nightmares got worse. Her cries woke me up. Almost every night, Greg said he wanted to leave. He said this house wasn't safe. One afternoon, I followed Lily to the woods behind our home. She was dragging her stuffed rabbit, muttering to herself. Suddenly, she stopped and pointed. There. She said that there was a small clearing with a shallow grave. I called the police. They investigated. They found an old child's toy buried there. A broken doll missing an eye. Greg confessed then. He'd met the woman years ago, long before we were married. She was unstable. Said the child was hers. Said the hospital had swapped babies. He tried to protect me and Lily by keeping it secret. But the house was haunted. By secrets and lies, one night, I woke up to a figure standing at the foot of my bed. It whispered in a voice that was neither male nor female. She's not yours. I grabbed Lily and left the house that night. We never returned. Sometimes I wonder about the woman and about the child who belonged to her, because in the silence of that house, the truth whispered louder than any voice. Some parents aren't meant to keep their children. I remember the day like it was yesterday. The day I realized how vulnerable a parent really is. My son, Jake, was 8 years old then, full of energy and mischief. We lived in a quiet neighborhood near an elementary school, where parents often gathered in the mornings and afternoons to watch their kids play. That afternoon started like any other. Jake had just finished school and was playing in the schoolyard, right behind the chain link fence that separated the playground from the parking lot. I was sitting in my car nearby, waiting for him to finish, scrolling through emails. The sky was cloudy, a gray sheet hanging over the town. I noticed a man standing near the swings, watching the children. He was tall, with a worn leather jacket, and an old baseball cap pulled low over his face. He didn't smile, didn't talk to anyone, just stood, eyes fixed on the kids. My heart thumped uneasily. Something about him felt off. I looked away, trying not to stare, but my mind raced. Jake called me over. Mom, look what I found. He held up a shiny rock. I smiled, but kept an eye on the man. Suddenly, the man approached Jake. I froze. Hey, buddy, the man said softly, kneeling down. That's a nice rock. Jake smiled shyly. The man reached out as if to take Jake's hand. I started to get out of the car, but before I could move, the man said something that stopped me cold. Your mom's busy. Let me give you a ride home. Jake looked at me, confused. I shook my head. Jake, don't go with him, I said firmly. The man's eyes flickered. Suddenly. He grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him toward a black van parked just outside the school gates. I jumped out of the car and ran toward them. Let him go. I screamed. The man turned, his face twisted into a sneer. Relax, lady. He's fine. People started to notice. A few parents came running. The man let go of Jake and backed away slowly. Jake ran into my arms, trembling. I didn't want to go. With him, Mom, he whispered. We called the police. The man had no ID, no record. But when officers checked the black van, they found disturbing things inside. Children's toys, blankets, and clothes that didn't belong to anyone in our neighborhood. Investigation revealed the man was a drifter with a history of child abduction attempts. Since that day, I never let Jake out of my sight and the schoolyard. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I still hear the echoes of his voice from the monitor. Your mom's busy. Let me give you a ride. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't been there. But I know this, every parent's worst nightmare is just one moment away.